Hey there, LA Life podcast listeners. As you can see and hear, I am not Pastor Brad, but as most of you know, he is in the sunny and warm sunshine state of Florida this week. So I have the pleasure of bringing you the LA Life podcast, and I am just going to go ahead and jump right in to what I have for you this week. So my word for the year this year is flourish. Every year towards the end of the year, I start praying about what the Lord has for me for the following year. And this past year, I felt like for 2023, the Lord had for me is the word flourish, prosper, grow, that whole kind of theme. And so today, I just want to bring you a little bit of that and what I feel like that word flourish means for me this year, and hopefully it encourages you this week as well. So a lot of you know that the beginning of the year, there were some of us women that started the 40-day sugar fast. The book is by Wendy Speak. It's been great for me, and I know it's been great for a lot of the women that have been doing this. And on day 38, she talked about this whole flourishing thing and how being planted by the water makes a difference in our root system and all of that. And so I'm just going to read a little bit that she had in this book on day 38. And I'll start with the verse that she had for the day, which comes from Psalm 1. And she has verses 1 through 4 here. And it says, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Not so the wicked. They are like chaff, the wind that blows away." And so she goes on to say in day 38 that she talks about the imagery of a flourishing tree that starts down in the root system. And she says, just like a tree, when the roots of our lives reach down deep and tap into a healthy water source, we thrive and bear fruit season after season, but not any old water will do. If you want a flourishing life, you must abide beside nourishing streams. Similarly, if you want to bear the fruit of God's Spirit in your thought life, your thoughts must be rooted in His Word. If you want your work life and your eating life and your home life to bear the right kind of fruit, you must be firmly planted by the right kind of water. And so in that day, she goes on to talk about getting down to the root of things. And yesterday, I actually just started a new book called The Power to Change by Craig Groeschel. And I got a few days into it. I got ahead of myself because it was really good. And he's talking about that same kind of thing as getting down to the root and how important it is to be rooted in the right things. And so really, the word flourish is what I had in mind this year, talking about that and just making sure that all year that I'm being rooted in the right things. And it's a daily thing, honestly, just making sure that I'm thinking the right things, that I'm making the right choices, and that I'm listening to what the Spirit has for me each day. And so another verse that I wanted to read to you is Jeremiah 17:8, and it's this same kind of concept of making sure that we're planted by the right water. So it says, "Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is in the Lord. He is like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green and is not anxious in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit." And so as I was praying about this word flourish at the end of December and even into the beginning of this year and really what that meant to me, one of the other verses that came to mind when I was praying about this was Jeremiah 29:11, that I have plans to prosper you and not to harm you. And so that prosper thing goes right along with flourish, is that the Lord wants us to prosper. He's created us to flourish and to prosper. Just like, in a month or so, and maybe some of you have already started, you're going to be planting your little seedlings. Some of you may keep them in the house before you take them outside. But your you've planted them in good soil and you're making sure that you're watering them with good water, because you want a great garden that produces good fruit that you can continue to eat on through the summer. And it's one of my favorite times of year, and I'm excited because this year we live in a new place and I will be able to have a good garden, a nice garden, hopefully. And so one of the things that I'm going to have to do is to tend to that garden and to make sure that I'm planting it in good soil, not the clay like we have on our entire property, which will be interesting, but making sure that I plant it in a good place and that I continue to water it. And so, this year, our theme for the year at the church is All Eyes on Jesus. And so a big part of that nourishing and flourishing life and prospering is making sure that we do keep our eyes on Jesus, not just the first 2 months of the year when we feel like we need change, but throughout the entire year, focusing our eyes on Jesus and knowing that because of him, we can plant ourselves in his word. We can plant ourselves in his living water, and we truly can flourish as long as we stay rooted in him. And so that Power to Change book that I started reading, the one thing, it goes to the root of things too, but it's talking about how sometimes we have to weed the garden. And it's easy to just go through sometimes and pluck off the leaves. And I hate those kind of weeds that you pull and you don't get the whole root system, and so they just keep coming back. And so he's talking about getting to the root of why we haven't been able to change in the past and how we can begin to change if we plant ourselves by that water. And if we pull out the weeds, we allow God to show us the weeds that need pulled out, but making sure that we're getting to the root of the weed and that we're digging the whole thing up so it doesn't continue to grow back. And so I know for me this year, that's something that's been hard already on month 2. Historically, I am not a super self-disciplined person. Hasn't been a huge thing in my family, in my life growing up. And so this year, even only 2 months in, it's been difficult for me to stay disciplined in that and to make sure that I'm staying rooted in the living water, next to that stream of living water, so that my roots get deep and that I continue to have that feeding me as I've gone through this year and as I continue to go through this year. And so I just want to encourage you with that this week, that maybe you had a goal in January and you've already gone away from it. But every day is a new day, and God lives in us, and we have the power of his strength. We have him living in us, giving us that strength to change. Not that we do the thing that changes, but that God does a work in us, that he's the one doing the weeding and getting that stuff out of us if we allow him to, so that we can thrive, so that we can flourish, so that we can prosper like he wants us to. And so as you go through this week, if you did start a challenge at the beginning of the year and you've gone away from it, I would just encourage you that today is a new day and that God's promises are always new. And so just remember that, and remember that if you keep yourself rooted by the living water, that you can grow and that you don't have to worry about your leaves withering. You don't have to worry about a drought, that you are going to bear fruit because you are planted by that water. So I hope that encouraged you this week. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Sunday. As you know, it will be Pastor Jake, our youth pastor, that will be giving the sermon on Sunday while Brad is still enjoying the sunshine down in Florida. So he will be with us, but I encourage you to join us and to continue to stay rooted next to that living water, so that as you grow and as you walk through this year of 2023, that you are continuing to bear fruit and that you are allowing God to do things in your life every day, not just the first 2 months of the year. So thank you for listening this week. I hope you guys have a blessed week.